The recording is on if you want to call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
All right. Good morning, everybody. October 16th, we're starting at 9:04. We're looking to call the order of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 18th, 2020 meeting?
I'll make a motion.
And that was
I'll second it.
And
Steve will second it.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Steve is aye. Yep.
All right, great. I think that was all 4 or 5. Great.
Yeah.
All right. I guess, do I have a motion to adjourn?
No, we got to do the, we got to do the budget.
The budget.
So, all right.
Yeah. All right, Steve, so I'll pass the mic over to you. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you? Sorry,
It's all right. We just approved the minutes of the Budget and Finance meeting. Do you guys, is my screen shared with you? Can you see that? Okay. So this again has been changed a little bit since we reviewed it in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting last September. Most notably, I have updated numbers in the, I'm sorry, let me go up here. Okay, this is starting from the top. I have updated the numbers in this cell right here, 2021-8, which is rental and finance income. So that includes the latest offer from National Grid for the license agreement. So we are still negotiating with them, but this is like a baseline what they've offered us, and what's included in there is $70,000, which includes the rent not from National Grid but from County Waste, plus the interest we get from some of our loans, which isn't a huge amount, especially given their deferred number right now. $81,000, which is rent of the land. I have 3/4 of $48,000, which is the rent of the building, but we're still trying to negotiate that. And then a prepay, and actually this is, I'm looking at the formula up here if you can see that. The $238,000 that's included in that entire number is a prepay on the road repair that's going to need to be done. So that $238,000 is not really our number, and it is, or not our money to keep. And it's offset down below in this number here under non-operating expenditures. So it's after phase 1 is done, they're going to be damaging our road and digging it up, and we're going to be repairing that. So that $485,975 is mostly grid money. A large chunk is not ours to keep, but if you carry that number through to 2022, and again, this is only a 2021 budget we're adopting, but this is the format for the Authority Budget Office. The 232 includes our county waste lease, an annual payment for the lease of the land and the county waste building for phase 2, 3, 4, or years 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that just runs through. And again, I think we're negotiating with them still. So I think those numbers will improve, but for budgeting purposes, that's a good number to play with.
So Steve, and I'm just going to go number is conservative right now?
I'm hoping it's conservative, yes. I think it is. It's at least what it is. You know, it shouldn't get any worse than that. Above that, I'll go back up now. That is the charges for service, which is our sharing with the IDA, and that is anticipated to be King's Landing 2, which is still going before the Planning Commission next week, and should be hopefully going to the IDA in October and November. I got their application in. The IDA meeting is next week. But so the $60,000 is from a revenue sharing fee. So we have total revenues of $485,975. And then let me just look up. Okay. And then operating expenditures We have professional service contract that includes the $15,000 for me, probably about $8,000 for, well, it includes legal, it includes finance, and Mary Ellen's company, as well as it includes the budget, the audit, which is a pretty significant piece as well. And you can see that number's gone up a little bit. We did spend a lot on legal this year, and we probably will continue with our involvement with Monument Square, our past involvement with Franklin Alley. Let's see. And then, so otherwise, we've got most of these have been footnoted, what is in there. Other operating expenditures, that is, let me just get down to, that's depreciation now. And 7, this is a pilot we pay on the King Fuels property to the city, which is not that significant. The non-operating expenditures, these two here are the principal and the interest on the HUD 108 loan that allowed us to purchase the King Fuel site and the Alamo as well. And you can see, if you look off to the right, the interest numbers continue to decrease over time. So for a total expenditures of $336,000. So this year we made money, mainly just, or next year rather, we will make money basically because of the grid payment. And the numbers below are not part of the budget, but they give us a good idea of when we're going to run out of money, which is something we've always been looking at. We were supposed to run out of money 3 years ago. Unfortunately, we had the 444 River Street sale that helped us out a lot. Justin Miller put together with us this revenue sharing with the IDA, which has kept us moving, and he's also done a great job working with National Grid, trying to keep them at the table to get this license moving forward so that the remediation can start. But so you can see, hopefully before we run out of money in 2022, we will have put together a deal for the transfer or the lease of the King Fuel site. So that's really the next thing I see as saving us and getting us out eventually from this burden of $200,000 a year in HUD 108 loan payments. So that is my presentation on the budget in general. And I guess I'll hand it back to you, Justin, JN. I'm making it a little bit smaller so you can look at the whole thing. Can you guys see that?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ken.
Just a quick question, Steve. With the 108 loan, you projected out to 2025 that we're still paying that. When does that actually, when is that fully paid off?
I think it goes out to 2029. It still goes.
2026, sorry. This is Justin.
Yeah, 6.
2026. Oh, good. So it's been nice. We've been getting closer so that our value of what we sell the King Fuels property for in the end here, it's now going to be a net instead of having to pay. It's going to be profit to us instead of just selling it and paying off the loan.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Question?
Yes, Monica.
So just, I know it's 2022's budget, but if National Grid is prepaying for the road, if it's greater than the $238,000, are they anticipating, giving us extra money for that? I mean, who's to be able to forecast what, materials costs are going to be?
And that's part of the negotiation. I have Jeff Pangburn from Creighton Manning giving me an estimate because we know approximately how big that's going to be, how long it's going to be. So we're getting together our estimate to see if that's good, if it's got a contingency in it. So that'll be the negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah, part of the strategy, Monica, is to monetize the road now, given our cash flow issues, with an eye on the LDC self-help later on to a certain degree, to the extent that we have resources. But ideally, when we do have a development agreement or a sale agreement with a user or users, and it could be multiple phases of buyers of the property, that they build a roadway restoration into their site plan. They pick up the costs. So
Okay.
that would be our strategy eventually, for those developers to take care of their portion of a roadway as part of their site plan. And that takes the pressure off of us for that restoration later on.
Agree. I would just hope that we'll have some sort of an idea of what's going to be built there, so we don't sink $238,000 and only have it tore back up. So
100% agreed. And part of the discussions with Dylan and Steve at this point, undertaking planning, which is fun, right? We made, and we're looking at, I think with Creighton, a proposed subdivision and overall industrial park site plan that all of these phases would be backed into, which would avoid duplication and tearing up investments, later on.
Justin, you and I, well, actually Andy too, go back several years to when we tried to do that before, remember?
I do remember, yes.
And it was only good for a lacrosse facility.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021 budget?
I make a
Make the
motion.
motion.
That was Monica, and do I have a second? It sounded like Ken.
Yep.
Great. Any further discussion on the budget? All right, I'll call the vote then. All in favor of the budget?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Budget is approved then.
All right.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Ken? do I
I'll
have a
second it, Steve.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
All right. Stop share. Okay, so I guess so I go into the regular meeting.
Right. Great. All right, I'll call to order the LDC meeting right now. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 18, 2020 board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting?
A motion to approve?
Ken, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Andy?
Okay.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Steve, item number 2 is Northern Borders Monument Square grant. If you want to
Yeah.
say anything about
So
that.
this was a grant that we applied for with the local development corporation applied for the grant and participating in it along with the city. It is a $1 million grant that was announced a few months back, and this is actually just the contract accepting the money. There's still more to be done because now we have about 1.5 million in DEC money, not DEC, Department of State funding. We have about 1.2 million from the city, or 1.3 million from the city, and then this $1 million. So it's about actually, I think I gave you wrong numbers there, but it's about $3.8 million in total. And we want to do infrastructure work in 2021 because of the Department of State grant. I might be able to extend it, but I'm already on my second final last ever extension from Department of State, as according to them. So we do want to get into the ground and do some work next year. It will require coordinating with the city. Hoboken Brownstone is, their renderings are coming forward, and they anticipate being before the Planning Commission in the near future. When we have a better concept of what that is, then we will have a better concept of how we will be spending the NBR grant, the Department of State money, and the city cash next year, at which time we'll have to go out to the bid. And it will be the city most likely that goes out to bid to do this infrastructure work. So we don't have a number for them yet. In the meantime, what this does is it just authorizes moving forward. The local development corporation accepts the funding. Most likely it will be a pass-through to the city in order to be able to do the infrastructure work on the site, which will include relocating the utilities, removing the staircase that's there, relocating the utilities that run under it, doing stormwater separation as well, and depending on where the numbers come in, possibly, doing some foundation work as well, or excavation for that. So we don't really have the scope yet, but this, at least signing this, gets us moving forward to get the documents in place with NBR so that both of our contracts are or both of our grants are ready to be drawn down on as needed.
Chair?
Yes, Monica.
Do we want to vote first and then have discussion? Sorry, I just followed protocol wrong.
Totally fine. Yeah, we can vote first. Do we have a motion to approve the Northern Borders Monument Square grant update by Steve?
Motion.
Ken, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Andy, any further discussion?
Yes, please.
Monica.
So I guess Steve and the mayor and myself and Andy, we've had some conversations around this, obviously, because it's the city funds that are the city funds, the cash funds, as well as the grant are the match to this program. So my concern, and I'm being honest, and Steve's probably rolling his eyes right now because you can't see him, is my concern is that we don't have a plan. We're looking to do infrastructure improvements without a plan, without a knowledge, without renderings, or even some sort of site plan ready to go for at least a preliminary approval through the Planning Commission. I thoroughly, I want this project to go more than probably most people, just because, we've seen it sit there for so long and languish. But at the same time, I want to know, in this Northern Borders grant, if there is money spent in a project that is stalled or even worse, abandoned, what is the responsibility of the city to the grant? There's a lot of FEMA grants, federal grants, where we actually have to pay the money spent down back. So I guess my concern is this grant actually goes out to, I believe, 2023, where the Department of State grant actually expires at the end of next year. So obviously we'll spend I'm assuming we'll spend down the grant monies in order of expiration. But I'm just a little concerned over not necessarily the fact that Samit and crew aren't committed to the job. I'm just concerned about the timing, the state of the state right now, because this project requires, and I'm not saying wishes, but it requires additional funding in order to make it happen. And it's also reliant upon city funding in order to fund, to pass bonding on it, honestly, in order to do the public improvements. And it's substantial bonding. This is not, this isn't the seawall, but it's certainly not the State Street Garage either. So I want to throw that out there. I'm not saying we should disregard it, but I would like some information in regards to what happens if the job fails, and what's the responsibility of the LDC, because they are the ones who took out the grant in any monies that are spent down.
Yeah, this is Justin Miller. I can, and sorry I'm not on video. My Wi-Fi and kids, I have 4 laptops going, I think, right now with school. So I'm just on audio. I completely agree that we wouldn't design the infrastructure project until we have at least a rough rendering of footprint for the Hoboken project. One really doesn't work without the other, and you wouldn't want to build the infrastructure only to have to move it or force them into a design that they don't want to do. So there's a linkage there 100%. The Northern Borders grant is tailored for both the city and the LDC as recipients, so we have flexibility to choose who's going to deploy the project. Our discussions thus far, given the city match on hand for Department of State, makes more sense for the city to do it for a number of reasons. In the first instance, number one, the LDC doesn't have the capital to complete the project. The city, with the grant and match on hand, does. In addition, the infrastructure needs to be done prior to when Hoboken exercises their option to acquire the property. So they're not going to go in and facilitate $4 million of infrastructure if that's what it is, before they have the right to do anything else but test or inspect the property. Going a step further and to, I think, answer the second part of your question, the Northern Borders grant and the Department of State grant are tailored in terms of scope of work to live and exist as if Hoboken never came. In particular, the Northern Borders grant is written in such a way that it's really to make this site shovel ready for future development. So if the city with band financing in the first instance to pre-finance the grant, then with pay down on cash match on hand, and then disbursement of the two grants to close it out is completed, that's fine. And if Hoboken moves forward and successfully goes vertical, that's the best case scenario. If they don't, if there's an abandonment or a delay or an issue, you've made your site shovel ready. So the investment and the grant qualification aren't affected if Hoboken doesn't materialize or is delayed or walks away, and we're hopefully not ever talking about a fifth developer or fourth, whatever it may be at this point. So.
Please don't say that.
I know. I kicking myself already.
So Justin, so just to continue that, so there's no payback component to this grant. So if we spend down $200,000, they'll grant us the $200,000. But even if the project doesn't move forward and it becomes a park, not built as per se, there's no payback required.
As long as the grant proceeds are spent on the scope that's detailed in the two grants, and the Department of State one, albeit from 2011 at this point, talks about riverfront park improvements, infrastructure, and some garage elements. Northern Borders, and Steve can correct me if I'm not too detailed, that one outlines the water and sewer relocation, the River Street wall, that retaining wall, modifications and support, and I think demolition of the staircase.
It does, but but it is founded on preparing the site for economic development purposes. So if this just becomes a park in the future, then I would think that would be something we would probably be likely to have to, if we change our mind, to repay. But most of that work that we're prepping to do is stuff that needs to get done anyways. I mean, not all of it, but most of it. And if we do it as a park, I'm sure we're going to be doing some amount of parking in there anyways. So yes, it's all infrastructure. As long as we keep moving forward, and as long as we keep moving forward with this grant and with the development of the site for commercial use, we're fine. But if we change course, then I would imagine they would want some recovery of it if it just becomes a park.
So also just keep in mind, one of the other conversation topics was the fact that since this will be a city job, as Steve indicated with the bidding, we'll most likely, just as a heads up for Ken, we'll most likely have to approach the city council for a bonding for a ban at least. We are in a benefit period right now because the governor just extended bans to be 7-year lives versus 5-year life. So that helps with paying down and interest costs, obviously. But just so full awares that we'll most likely have to go to, and bonding for cash flow purposes, we'll just have to kind of make sure that we keep that in mind as we're moving forward.
And just to echo what Monica's saying, so we talked about that in-house, but we didn't want to go to the city council yet because we don't have plans. And accepting this grant doesn't commit the city to do the bonding to do the project. I mean, if we don't do the project, we don't get the money. So that's a discussion we will have in the city council, with the city council. I'll probably discuss it I'll brush over it at my budget meeting next Tuesday with the city council, just to let them know what we're looking at, but I don't have any details really on it to bring anything to them at this point.
All right.
I don't have enough.
Okay. Great. Thanks, everybody. Is there any further discussion regarding the Northern Borders Monument Square grant right now?
None.
All right, I'll call the vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Steve, you want to move on to the next item, the budget?
Yes, so I guess, I mean, we've discussed that already, so probably just, since that's come out of committee with a recommendation, I think you just get a motion to approve the 2021 budget.
All right.
And I guess I'll just note for the record for this meeting that included in that budget calculation is income to the city through for the next 5 years from National Grid as part of our license agreement. As part of our license agreement with them, allowing them to do the remediation. And there's a significant payment that will come to the LDC next year, and it extends the operating life of the LDC through 2022 financially, at which time I'm sure we will have constructed the deal that gets us out of King Fuels financially and sets us on a more stable path moving forward.
All right, so we need to have another motion on that, correct?
Yes.
All right, do we have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion. I'll make the motion to adopt the budget.
I'll
Steve?
second.
Okay. Monica? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Steve, do we want to move into executive session or?
I think executive session, I was going to discuss the National Grid negotiations, but we've covered it. That's ongoing right now. I discussed that in the budget and finance, so there's really no need to update anything on that.
All right. And we'll move on
All
to
right,
item.
Guys, thank you. Have a good day.
Good luck.
Monica?
Hey, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ken?
just a question. If we were to go into executive session, what would that look like here on Zoom? How would we be handling that?
Well, that's part of the reason why I decided not to. But what Danae and I discussed was that I can send everybody who's on the meeting who couldn't be into it into a waiting room. The question was if we're live streaming. So anyways, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you yet. We got to work on that one. Yeah.
Right. So
Okay,
then
fair
we'll
enough.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks,
Yep.
Steve. We'll figure that out soon. We'll move on to item number 5 then, Steve, the Executive Director's Report.
Let me just state, and I've been working with Justin Nadu on the loan, BSM Banquet Hall. These are the deferred loans right now. And Mary Ellen, when she does finance, might be able to update us a little bit on them. But BSM still owes us about $58,000. They've indicated they're not going to be able to pay us for a while moving forward, but that they could make interest-only payments. I'm not asking for a motion right now. I've got to get on the phone offline with Justin on that right now to figure out how that one will work. I mean, they have paid down a significant amount of the loan, and I don't know if you got a chance to review the documents, JN, but that's what's happening with that one. The Troy Kitchen one, I'm a little more concerned about. I don't think he has the means to pay us back. I've been swamped and I haven't talked with him. And the other 3 should be okay. So we've got 2 loans in question that we'll try and take care of before the November meeting.
Great, yeah. I'm more than happy to, jump on a conference call, Steve, too, with them. I would just probably need an introduction. I just wouldn't want to randomly call them and be like, hey, and talk about their loan.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll set that up with you. I'll give them a call this afternoon, and maybe we'll do an email, and we'll just talk it through. But I'll talk to you first.
Great.
Let's see.
Was that Andy?
Yeah. Hey, Steve, how long has the Troy Kitchen loan been? Is that are we in our 4th year or is it 5th now?
Got to be in a 5th year because I've been here 4.5. I'll bet you we're even in our 6th year. Because we split it into 2. I can't give you a good breakdown on it. We split it into 2 loans, or we extended it out because principal payments were too high.
Right.
And and I don't know his outstanding balance right now. I'm sorry, but it's been a challenge throughout. yet we have been able to get recovery on most of it in a delayed manner. Right now, he's changing his business format so that instead of being a restaurant incubator, he's going to be a chef incubator, and he's got an app that he can do the deliveries, and he'll have more of the revenue. But until that's in place, and he has to do some minor renovations on the building. Until that happens, I don't see any income coming in. And again, I haven't spoken to him in about 3 weeks. So.
Do we know any updates? Because I know that he was in the process of expanding to Albany.
I believe he's still expanding into Albany, I believe. I don't know if Justin Miller has any update on that. Not that or just has heard anything on it. I think he knows some of the players in that piece, but he is continuing to do both.
He's on Columbia Street in Albany. For those of you that know Albany a little bit, it's the little block that has Miranda's Deli on it, and I think a barber shop, and the Hollow Bar and Kitchen is on the corner off Pearl Street. He's in a building owned by Redburn, and it's kind of funny you mentioned it. Yesterday, I randomly went down to Miranda's with my wife and got a sandwich, and Corey was standing outside. And I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And he walked me upstairs to show me what is pretty much 95% done in his space, and he's opening, I think, on the 21st. What it is, and I was impressed, quite frankly. And I didn't mention Troy. I was just like, "Wow, this looks nice." He has his own app, so if you live downtown or you work downtown in Albany, you can turn on your phone, order your food, walk up and grab it, or sit in there and eat, or whatever you want to do. It's kind of a cool concept. So I don't know how I don't know how that impacts. I don't know how that impacts this discussion on his Troy loan, but he is moving forward in Albany, it seems.
And it is that same app that he's talking about, which he gets the money for being able to sell online instead of Grubhub or Uber or whatever. I'm not sure how he handles the delivery component of that, but the payment part of it comes. He doesn't lose any fee on it.
I guess my question, I think, it's just like a general question, is it seems he had the financing capabilities to expand. Was our money going to that expansion and not to us, potentially?
Well, our money was dispersed, back in the day.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant like our money is in like the cash flow from the Troy kitchen. Was that going to finance and fund the expansion versus paying back his loan to Troy? It seems like that, unless he got financing from somewhere else.
Yeah. Is our deferral helping his cash flow elsewhere? That's a fair question.
Yeah. And this app, like, did he create it? Like, is this like I don't know, if it's like a patent or whatever that he created and he owns this app? And do we know anything about that? Since it's not like Emilio or Uber or...
Yeah, but that was my wife's observation when we walked out. And it's a super nice space. And we're talking about the app, and she was looking to do one for her studio at some point. She's like, to develop an app, it costs like $25,000. And you can have developers produce an app that you own and you have intellectual property rights on, and that goes into the app store or wherever you buy apps to put on your phone. But it's an investment to get those produced. And I don't know if he's got a partnership or some arrangement with, one of the computer hackers that live in Troy. That's what I call them. But, there's a lot of software developers in your clusters in Troy. Maybe he has a relationship or a partnership with someone to help him deploy that thing.
Yeah, he told me he developed it with some other people. So I don't really know.
Questions that we need to ask them. Just usually that's what happens. If they're expanding and they're not paying their debt, they're using their cash to expand. But that's something, I guess, Steve, like you said, if we want to jump on a call with them or email, to get a better understanding and dive into their numbers. Right. The numbers will tell us.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the big question in the room is, how do we protect ourselves? I mean, it's obvious that he's used cash. It should be going to us to finance this other thing. What kind of leverage do we have?
I haven't seen the documents, but we'd have to look to see what secures this loan. And then with this expansion, we're all calling it an expansion, but is it a different company who owns that equipment there? Even looking into this app, does he own this app, and is it worth something that we, taking liens on stuff, if we're going to defer, what we've been doing here at my organization as a lending institution is, we understand, everyone understands what's going on in the financial world and the economy, and businesses need help. But we're also not a charity either. So we offer help, offer deferments, note modifications, but consider taking additional collateral. If this expansion over here to Albany is a different company, we have them as a guarantor on the loan. Make sure that we also have a lien on the business assets. Just
and then
further
now this
secure our loan.
And this was set up before I got here, but I would venture a guess that we have a personal guarantee and probably equipment, which isn't worth much. So I'll get the documents to you as well on this.
That's my recollection, Steve, that it was UCC equipment and personal guarantees of Corey.
Yeah, it's definitely stuff to just all look into about this expansion. We don't know much about it except for Justin Miller's site visit on his sandwich. Was it good?
I hadn't. He's not open yet.
How about the other one, the deli?
Oh yeah, you went to the deli to get a sandwich. So, but yeah, I think again, we'll just, we'll have to look at the loans and work with them as best as we can.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That's it for the executive director's report. Just moving into old business, which is, I usually lump into the same. So we are continuing to negotiate with National Grid for the license. Again, there are 3 phases on the King Fuels property remediation. They were anticipating on starting phase 1 late summer, which has now become winter. And given that they haven't bid it yet, I'm imagining it's going to be a 2022 start. The ball right now is in our court, so we've held it up for the last 2 weeks, but they held it up for quite some time. So I just need to get back to them with a counteroffer on that. There are 3 one-year phases of remediation that will take them 5 years. You do the math. I don't know how that happens, but so that's what's happening with that. The Federal Street property, I believe I will have an application. We do already have a request for that property, but I didn't want to do anything with it until it went through Planning Commission and is complete there for the Kings 2 project behind Beer Garden right off Federal Street. And do I have anything else in there? I believe that's it. That's it for old business, and I have no new business.
All right, great. Thanks, Steve. Mary Ellen, hand the mic over to you for financials.
Before you go, Mary Ellen, do you want me to?
What?
Want me to bring it up on the screen, or?
It's up to you. That doesn't matter.
Go ahead. I think everybody's got it, and if I get it by then, I'll bring it up on the screen. I didn't have it printed out.
I'm displaying my PDF right here, so yeah.
Okay, so the first report that we go over is the statement of financial position. As of 9/30, 2020, our total assets are 3.2 million, with 511,000 of those assets in cash. Our liabilities stand at 1 million, leaving us with a fund balance of 2.2 million. And the largest change to the statement of financial position is in the prepaid rental fence expense, where we have expensed through September on our statement of activities. So that was almost $7,000. And you'll see that in the month of September under let me see, facilities and other equipment, almost to the bottom.
What am I looking at? Keep
Okay,
going?
yep, keep going.
Keep going.
Sorry.
There it is. See it under 6460. So we've expensed that through September. And by the end of the year, it will be expensed unless, of course, we have to re-up that fence expense. So for the month of September, on the statement of activity, we have a deficit in revenue of $46,000. The only source of revenue this month was rent. And our largest expense was for the COVID response, which went to 2 different entities.
All right. Where am I looking? Okay. There we are.
There it is.
And that was offset by the income from the CRC, the fence piece, that actually is probably a good negotiating point with National Grid to get them to take over that payment.
Great.
Right.
I think the last time we just discussed, there was a couple of pilot payments that were coming due. Has everyone been able to pay them, or are they past due at all?
The pilot payments go through the IDA.
IDA, okay.
Yep.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the September 30, 2020 financials?
I'll move it. Steve?
Steve, do I have a second?
Yep, second.
Ken? Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mary Ellen, you mentioned 2.2 million.
Yes, the fund balance, which is down at the bottom of the statement of financial position, the total equity is your fund balance.
The 2.16, the 2163.
Right.
Yeah, she tends to round.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I round. Yeah.
Okay.
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 Is there any other further discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The financials are approved. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Make a
I'll
motion.
move it, Steve. And I'll second it, Steve.
Okay, we'll say Andy motioned it, seconded it. Any opposed? We're adjourned then.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Steve.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, excuse me.